I'm done downplaying how badass this country truly is. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about something that is fake, but everybody thinks that is true. Contrary to popular belief, the United States has, is, and always will be militarily undefeated. If you don't believe me, I'll give you two options. Argue with that wall, or sit your ass down and listen, because I'm about to dive into it. Okay, let's kick things off in the first war of the U.S. history, the War for Our Independence. On April 19, 1775, as Paul Revere made his historical ride, a shot was fired that thrusted history into a spiral. A man whose identity is still not known shot at the Battle of Lexington and Concord during a somewhat peaceful dispute between the British and the Minutemen. And this one just was heard around the world because now the Americans finally got somebody to find out after years of them fucking around. 2 months after this battle, the Minutemen decided to evolve into something new, which we now know as the United States Army. On June 14th, 1775, the Continental Army was created, led by General George Washington. Now, Washington had to act fast because 2 days after his appointment, one of the bloodiest battles of the war would occur. June 17th, 1775, Washington is 2 days into his appointment as Commander-in-Chief, and the British win Bunker Hill. And that is because we retreated, and I know what you're about to say. That's a military defeat. The United States is undefeated. First of all, that's wrong. Now I got two arguments for that. First of all, 1775, you're a year before the creation of the United States. So technically, this is a defeat of the British colonies. Now that is the asshole in me, so I will give you another argument. This wasn't a surrender, this was a retreat. Due to horrible logistics. So, this is not a surrender, therefore we are still undefeated. Fast forward to November 10th that same year, and a little bar in Pennsylvania called Tun Tavern. You might know the story, I hope. This is where a couple of drunk guys decided to go pro in killing the British, and that creates the blunt spear of the United States, also known as the United States Marine Corps. More time goes by, and we are now at one of the most pinnacle parts of this war and history. July 4th, 1776. That ring a little bell? That is when our forefathers signed a piece of paper that created one nation under God. The United States of America. That piece of paper was the Declaration of Independence. Now, also around this time, the British hired Hessians, which are German mercenaries that'll come up later. Christmas rolls around, and the war had now been going on for almost a year. And thanks to that, Army enlistments were going to expire. And due to low morale during the war, people were probably not going to enlist, meaning no Army. Washington knew this, and he did not want to risk the war ending like this. So, on Christmas Day, 1776, Washington planned and executed something so risky that nobody would fucking do it. Except for this retard. On December 26, around 8 a.m., Washington, under the artillery cover of General Knox, aka the namesake of Fort Knox, invaded the town of Trenton, killing 22 Hessians, including Colonel Rahl. And this leads to a lot of re-enlistments of the Continental Army, sealing the deal for an army as well as the future of our country. This then leads us to the Saratoga Campaign, which seals the deal for French aid in the future. On February 6, 1778, the Treaty of Alliance was signed, bringing the French into the War for American Independence. Now, this alliance between the two countries flourished the most at the Battle of Yorktown, aka the end of the war. From September 28th to October 19th of 1781, the British were surrounded on land, and they were getting their asses kicked by the French on sea. So, 3 weeks later, Cornwallis decides to surrender. 2 years after that is when the Treaty of Paris is signed, officially ending the war, creating a nation under God. Meaning we were forged in battle, and a new social experiment started that withstands test time with our patented controlled chaos, as you will see later on in this video. Okay, let's take a look at our numbers here. From April 19th, 1775 to September 3rd, 1783, 6,800 Americans were killed in battle. 17,000 were killed by disease. 8,000 to 12,000 civilians were killed. 8,000 British soldiers were killed in battle. 17,000 from disease. The French suffered 2,100 deaths in battle. 17,000 to 20,000 from disease. And then you have the Hessians with the least casualties. 1,200 from deaths in battle and 7,700 from disease. Our first war was a success. From farmers with muskets to boat owners with letters of marque, like the father of our Navy, John Paul Jones. They all kicked the ass of the British, which was the biggest empire at the time, showing how relentless we were. Sadly, this doesn't end well. It leads to a couple other small conflicts that last from now till decades into the 1800s. After we gained our independence from the British, we learned that there was a pirate empire that took tributes to prevent any destruction of your ships. Jefferson didn't like this because he already knew don't touch the boats. So he sent Richard Dale to fix things diplomatically, which didn't go so well. So on May 10th, 1801, we went to war. The First Barbary War ended after only 4 years, showing off our military might as we gave another empire some liberty. Around 40 Americans were killed in this, and the whole 307-man crew of the USS Philadelphia was captured. Now, the Tripoli records aren't kept because they didn't have records at the time, for that side at least. And that will become a theme later on, as you will see. But we had won another war against an empire, and now we get some peace. Next up is the War of 1812, or as I like to call it, Americans Kick Ass, the sequel. After the Napoleonic Wars, the British thought it would be funny to touch our boats.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Yeah. Well, the Redcoats came back, and after burning D.C. and losing New Orleans,
in 1814, we took a little trip along with Colonel Jackson down the mighty Mississippi.
We kicked them out of our country for a second time. Going back to our numbers here, this 3-year conflict resulted in the death of 2,260 Americans, so 2,260 Americans, in battle. 15,000 were killed from disease. Meanwhile, Britain lost 15,000 troops in total. I couldn't find disease versus battle. I will also add that 2,000 Native Americans were killed because of the British. They were protecting them. Along with the War of 1812, the Algerians decided it would be fun to fuck around and find out. The Algerians kept the theme of Barbary Wars by starting the second one. Now, this is quick, so let's already get to the numbers because we won. Let's see. The Americans lost 30 people in this short conflict, and just like Tripoli, Algeria has no records of this. So, we won 2 rematches, Barbary Wars and the War of 1812. Let's see what happens next with peace, right? We get peace. No? Okay. After President Polk told everyone to manifest their destiny, Mexico started to look really fucking breedable and submissive. And thanks to the fact they wouldn't recognize Texas as an independent country, we decided to invade and continue to kick their asses for the next 2 years. Alright, we're back to the numbers again. I told you, short conflicts. So from 1846 to 1848, we lost 1,733 Americans in battle. Excuse me. And 11,500 were killed from disease. Mexico lost 25,000 soldiers in total. Again, couldn't find a difference, so that's including wounded, disease, and battle. Very nice. They also lost 500,000 square miles, which, from my list, that would later become, let's see, Nevada, California, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, parts of Colorado, Wyoming, and Kansas. That's very nice. It's very nice. Now we get more peace until our house is divided and can no longer stand less than 20 years later. Fuck my life.
Oh, way down south in the land of traitors, rattlesnakes and alligators right away.
13 years go by where people are just too fucking scared to fight us. And so what do? We decide to fight ourselves. After about a year of states separating from the Union over slavery and state rights, they decided it's going to be very fun to try to fight the Union, aka the original United States. So, what happens is General Lee takes over the Confederacy States of America and starts a civil war. Let's see how that turns out. Okay, so back to the numbers. From 1861 to 1865, Johnny Reb took 360,000 Union soldiers with him, but 260,000 Confederates were killed in battle. Well, correction, this is all just battle and disease. So that equals a lot of fucking Americans. This also includes tens of thousands of civilians. But anyways, Union won, slavery was abolished, and now it's time for Reconstruction. Nothing could go wrong. Alright, fast forward to the end of the Reconstruction era. February 15th, 1898. In Cuba, specifically Havana Harbor, a ship by the name of USS Maine blows up. The cause is unknown, but I'd say it's similar to 9/11. The boat just did that. Kind of like Tower 7 just did that. Nothing to do with government. Don't worry. But this war pushes one of the last European powers out of North America. Thank God. Alright, this war was very short, lasting less than a year, so let's get to the numbers again. This war killed 2,400 Americans, mostly from disease, and anywhere from 400 to 1,000 Spanish men. Later, 200,000 Filipinos are killed. That happens. And the U.S. gains the territories of Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. Again, there's a small peace, but that doesn't last long because now we're going to big war, Great War. Okay, on June 28th, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated, starting World War I. And a couple years later, Germany decides to fuck around by touching our boats. And then they try to convince Mexico to fuck around and invade us. How do you think that ends? Yeah, we immediately go to Europe and wreck house. And a year after we get there, the war ends. Now let's get to the numbers. Okay, so the numbers for World War I include... Oh, yeah, it's going to be a long list. 116,516 Americans die. 887,000 British troops die. 1.4 million French die. 1.8 million Russians die. 650,000 Italians die. 2 million Germans die. 1.5 million Austrians die. 770,000 Ottomans die. And anywhere from 6 to 13 million civilians die. Yeah, not great. But the Allies won, and then we signed something called the Treaty of Versailles, which, as I'm reading right now, is one of the most retarded decisions that we could have made at the time. And according to a French marshal, Ferdinand Foch, this is not peace. The war is postponed for 20 years. And what do you know? He was right, missing the mark by 1 fucking year. Well, Foch, you were right. Welcome to 1939. Hitler is running it right now. And with the help of the Soviet Union, he does the one thing he was told not to do. On September 1st, 1939, Hitler invades Poland, and later on, USSR joins in. Together, splitting it down the middle, they start World War II. Now, this has a lot of countries join in, but they get absolutely wrecked by the Blitzkrieg. Ask France. Ask Denmark. Ask anybody. Greece. Hungary. But on December 7th, 1941, Japan fucks up by doing the one thing they weren't supposed to do. The cardinal sin. Don't touch our fucking boats. The surprise attack at Pearl Harbor was the last straw for Americans. And so the next day, on December 8th, 1941, FDR gave one of the most iconic speeches. This thrust the United States into World War II, which scares the fucking shit out of the Axis powers. After many monumentous battles like Midway in 1942 and Operation Torch in 1943, the United States plans one of the largest amphibious assault in history up until Operation Praying Mantis. But this thing would take forever to do. And now, it's time to attack. On June 6, 1944, General Dwight D. Eisenhower leads his men and other countries into the belly of the beast at the beaches of Normandy. A year after this, he keeps pushing his way through Europe with Patton and, I would say MacArthur, but that's Pacific. Well, anyways, him and Patton pushed their way through Europe to Germany, making Hitler rage quit life pretty violently. And now all that's left is Japan. On August 6th and August 9th, 1945, 2 atomic bombs were dropped, which scared the ever-loving shit out of Hirohito, and leading to a Japanese surrender. And then MacArthur showed up and fucked everything up. The sequel to The War to End All Wars has a very long casualty list, so stay with me here. Let's see. We kick things off with 418,500 Americans killed, 24 to 27 million Russians killed, 15 to 20 million Chinese killed, 450,800 British killed, 567,600 French killed, 5.6 million Polish killed, 7 to 8 million Germans killed, 3.1 million Japanese killed, 454,000 Italians killed, and 11 million Holocaust deaths, adding up to around 80 million deaths worldwide. Now, I know all of you have heard the quote, "We fought the wrong enemy," which is Patton saying that about World War II, and people say it's because we didn't fight our politicians. No. Patton and Dwight D. Eisenhower both were known because they hated communism and thought we should have destroyed communism when we had the chance in World War II because of how fucked up their infrastructure was. And thanks to that, 5 years after World War II, we get MacArthur's dumbass. He's instructed with bringing peace to Korea because of a communist uprising. Should have dealt with that in World War II. But we didn't, so we go over to North Korea and try to bring peace there. What MacArthur does, though, is he goes up through the 38th parallel, takes over all North Korea, and touches China's border. Fucking dumbass. Well, thanks to this dumbass move, MacArthur is pushed back to Chosin Reservoir, where the most decorated Marine at the time, Chesty Puller, delivers the greatest quote that sums up our country. To quote, "They're to the left of us, to the right of us. They're in front of us, they're behind us. They can't get away this time." And after some miscommunication, a Tootsie Roll supply drop, and a lot of communist deaths, we push out and win Korea. Now let's get to the numbers on this one. Let's see, 36,575 Americans were killed, mostly from the below zero temperatures. 1 to 1.5 million North Koreans are killed, and Chinese, that's including North Koreans and Chinese, and then 137,000 South Koreans are killed. Fucking ratioed. After more communist dumbfuckery, Vietnam splits and starts a very controversial conflict. Try saying that 5 times fast. Well, after that, Vietnam shoots one round at an American ship, which starts the Gulf of Tonkin incident, sending us into Vietnam in 1965, 10 years after the conflict starts. From 1965 up until 1972, the U.S. never surrenders once to Vietnam. And from December 18th to December 29th, 1972, we launched something called Operation Linebacker 2, bombing the ever-loving shit out of Vietnam while forcing them to sign a treaty, which January 27th, 1973, they do, called the Treaty of Paris, officially ending U.S. involvement in Vietnam, telling them to do it, to fucking figure out peace together. Let's see how that turns out. 2 years after this treaty is signed, and Vietnam decides to start this shit up again. North Vietnam invades South Vietnam. Without the help of the Americans, South Vietnam loses. And now, Vietnam has become a communist shithole with KFCs. And if you think this is a loss, go fuck yourself. This is like I beat your ass in a fight, horribly, and then I leave. 2 years later, I die, and you say that you fucking won. Go fuck yourself. Alright, the Vietnam War ended, and with that, 1.1 million Viet Cong deaths occur, 250,000 South Vietnam deaths occur, 58,220 American deaths, and 2 million civilian deaths. Again, I say, get fucking ratioed, bitch. Okay, now we skip over to the Gulf War. Saddam Hussein takes over Kuwait, which fucks with our gas prices. So guess what? Cardinal sin, bitch. We go over there and wreck house. 42 days of air superiority, known as Desert Storm. 100 hours of ground troops. And now, we liberated Kuwait, bitch. And in this time, let's see. We got 20,000 to 35,000 Iraqis killed after 294 Americans were killed. This is also 6 years after we destroyed Iraq's Navy in an 8-hour workday known as Operation Praying Mantis. This is the third time I'm going to say it. Get fucking ratioed, bitch.
Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list.
On September 11th, 2001, Tim Osman, oh, shit, wrong name. Sorry, dude. Osama bin Laden, forgot we don't call him that anymore. So, bin Laden destroys the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the field in Pennsylvania without any help from a 3-letter agency or a Bush. I don't know what Shrubbery would be doing with the terrorists, but who knows. Well, bin Laden fucked around. He soon learned what the other end of that phrase is. And along with that, Al-Qaeda, after putting a black guy on the U.S., got a boot so far up their ass that it came out their goat fucking mouths.
Cause we'll put a boot in your ass, it's the American way.
During this time, we also went to Iraq to find something called weapons of mass destruction. For some reason, after we assured they were there, we couldn't find them, but we found Saddam Hussein, killed him, and created a lot of instability. We also went back to Afghanistan, wrecked house there for 20 years, and we let a prick go every time we were wrecking house. We let him go to a neutral country, like Pakistan, let's say, fucking enlist more dumb fucks, bring him back to Afghanistan, hide amongst populated areas, and then we just fucking wrecked them. And now if you say that we lost that war, let me give you a little example here. Imagine you killed 2 of my family members. And then I go to your house filled with all of your friends. I kill every last one of them except for you. And then I let you hide upstairs and call your friends, and I keep killing your friends every time they come for 20 years. Then I get bored and I leave. And you say you kicked my ass. That's the Afghanistan war. So, going to the numbers of freedom, the Iraq War killed 4,431 Americans, while 180,000 Iraqis were killed. The Afghanistan War killed 2,461 Americans, and anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 Taliban members died. Again, if you consider this a loss, you get fucked, nerd. And yeah, that was the war on terror. Again, I will just fucking say it. Ratio. So to give you a quick little summary here, since 1775, 1.2 million American servicemen have died. Now, to show how good we are though, they took anywhere from 1.8 to 2.8 million dumb fucks with them. Get fucked, nerd. Now, as I stated earlier, the United States has, is, and always will be undefeated militarily. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one.